He was restless, paranoid, desperate to leave Canada. Over 5 days in July 1996, Blair Adams withdrew his life savings, abandoned airline tickets, crossed international borders, and claimed people were trying to kill him. Then, without warning or explanation, he ended up in Knoxville, Tennessee, a place he had no ties to, and died under circumstances that investigators still can't explain. When his body was found in a construction site just off the interstate, it looked like a robbery, but his gold, jewelry, and thousands in cash were untouched. He had injuries consistent with a violent fight, signs of internal trauma, and someone else's hair clutched in his hand. There were no drugs in his system, no clear motive, no suspect, and no reason for him to be there. Welcome to Bad Things. Join us as we retrace Blair Adams' final days, unpack the conflicting theories, and piece together what most likely happened. In the summer of 1996, Blair Adams's behaviour changed. The 31-year-old construction foreman from Surrey, British Columbia, had been sober for 2 years, active in Alcoholics Anonymous, and known for being dependable. But by early July, friends and family began noticing something was wrong. He seemed nervous, agitated, and increasingly paranoid. He told several people that someone was trying to kill him. He withdrew most of his money from the bank and emptied a safe deposit box that contained cash, gold, and jewelry. When his mother asked what was going on, he told her, "I don't think I should tell you about it." On July 5th, he attempted to cross into the United States through Victoria, British Columbia, but was denied entry. A background check flagged past drug possession and assault charges, and officials suspected he might be involved in drug trafficking, though no evidence was found. Over the next few days, Blair moved restlessly between the homes of friends, a girlfriend in Vancouver, and his mother. One friend described him as desperate to leave Canada. Another said he broke down in tears over quitting his job. His travel patterns became unpredictable. On July 8th, he paid cash for a one-way ticket to Frankfurt, Germany, a country he had worked in previously. The next day, he returned to the travel agency and cancelled the flight, saying the person he was visiting had become ill. That person later said she hadn't expected him. In the early hours of July 9th, Blair tried to cross the border again, this time on foot. Officials found him scratched and disoriented. He denied involvement in a nearby car theft case, though a friend had recently seen him in a vehicle that wasn't his. No charges were filed. Later that day, Blair rented a Nissan Altima at Vancouver International Airport and successfully entered the US by car. From Seattle, he boarded a flight to Washington, D.C., again paying cash for a one-way ticket. Upon landing on the morning of July 10th, he rented a Toyota Camry at Dulles Airport and began driving southwest. That afternoon, he was involved in a minor fender bender along Route 250 in Virginia. The other driver said Blair was polite, but seemed to be in a rush. By evening, he had reached Knoxville, Tennessee, a city he had no known connection to. Around 5:30 p.m., he stopped at a BP gas station off Interstate 40, saying his car wouldn't start. He was trying to use the Nissan key from his earlier rental instead of the Toyota key he'd been issued. A repairman, Gerald Sapp, responded to the call. Sapp quickly identified the issue but was struck by Blair's demeanour. He didn't appear to be on drugs, Sapp later said, but his mind wasn't functioning correctly. Blair didn't seem interested in finding the right key and had to be reminded to take his bag when Sapp offered him a ride to the nearby Fairfield Inn. Once there, Blair lingered in the lobby for nearly 40 minutes before booking a room. Staff described him as distracted and unsettled. He paid in cash, didn't wait for his change, and walked away with the keycard to room 117, but never entered the room. At 7:37 p.m., Blair left a hotel on foot. It was the last time he was seen alive. Later that night, 2 women claimed to see him at the Cracker Barrel restaurant next door, dining with an unidentified man. The descriptions of this man varied, and the police sketch generated from their accounts produced no leads. An autopsy would later reveal undigested shrimp, meat and lettuce in Blair's stomach, suggesting he had eaten shortly before his death, possibly at that restaurant. There were also unconfirmed sightings of Blair at a nearby truck stop, where witnesses said he was asking about Canadian currency. Police ultimately dismissed the lead. At approximately 7 a.m. on July 11th, construction workers discovered Blair's body in a lot across the interstate from the hotel. The area, then under development, would later become a country inn and suites. At first, the workers assumed he was homeless, but the reality quickly became more disturbing. Blair was found shirt open, nude from the waist down. One shoe was placed under his head like a pillow. The other was nearby. His socks were inside out, and his pants were missing but appeared to have been forcibly removed. Scattered around the body were 2 sets of car keys, his hotel keycard, a duffel bag full of receipts and maps, and a fanny pack filled with cash, gold, and jewelry. None of it stolen. Altogether, over $4,000 in American, Canadian, and German currency was found at the scene. He had suffered extensive injuries, abrasions, bruises, and cuts. There were defensive wounds on his hands. His forehead was gashed. Clumps of hair had been ripped from his head. In one hand, he was still clutching a long strand of someone else's hair. The cause of death was a blunt force trauma to the abdomen, which ruptured internal organs and caused a slow, fatal infection known as peritonitis. According to the autopsy, the injury would have left him incapacitated, but alive for hours. A security guard working nearby reported hearing a piercing scream at around 3:30 a.m., which he assumed came from a woman. Investigators believe it may have been Blair. Toxicology tests later confirmed that he had no drugs or alcohol in his system, no signs of overdose, no indication he had harmed himself. There was no clear suspect, no weapon, and no known motive. He had not been robbed. There was no one in Knoxville who knew him, no call logs to explain why he went there, and no surveillance showing where he went after leaving the hotel. As one of the first officers on the scene, Sheriff J.J. Jones later said, "It's the most mysterious case I've ever worked." The death of Blair Adams has puzzled investigators, journalists, and online sleuths for nearly 3 decades. With no clear motive, no suspects, and no strong forensic evidence, multiple theories have emerged, each trying to make sense of a case that resists explanation. 4 remain the most widely discussed. Number 1. A sexual encounter turned violent. The most favored theory among local law enforcement is that Blair was killed during a sexual interaction that turned aggressive. He was found partially undressed, with signs that his pants had been forcibly removed. The location, an isolated construction site near a known red light area, further supports this angle. Knox County Sheriff J.J. Jones believed Blair may have approached someone at a nearby truck stop. He might have picked somebody up over there, Jones said. Investigators speculated that he may have engaged with a sex worker or transient, and the situation escalated, either during a robbery attempt or due to resistance. Cold case detective David Davenport suggested the fatal blow could have come from a vehicle bumper, while others believed it was a kick. Either way, police believed the scene indicated a struggle and a hasty retreat. What complicates this theory is that none of Blair's valuables were taken. His gold, jewelry, and cash remained untouched. Number 2. A random encounter turned deadly. Another possibility is that Blair became the victim of an unplanned act of violence, triggered by his own erratic behavior. His confused state, large amounts of visible cash, and nervous demeanor may have made him a target for someone unpredictable. Reddit users and online theorists have pointed out that paranoia can read as aggression. Blair may have acted in a way that made someone feel threatened, or simply confused. A stranger might have lashed out in response. The idea that the scene was staged has also surfaced, that the attacker left valuables behind intentionally to throw off suspicion. As one user put it looks too weird to be random, which might be exactly the point. Number 3. He was being followed. Blair's own words hinted at a threat. He told multiple people someone was trying to kill him and that he couldn't talk about it. He had previously worked in Germany and reportedly feared some of the men he had known there. One theory suggests that someone from his past tracked him down. Another posits that he had arranged a meeting in Knoxville and was betrayed. The unidentified man seen with him at Cracker Barrel remains unaccounted for. But investigators found no direct evidence of a stalker. No calls, letters, or threats. No one came forward. Nothing ever connected Blair to Tennessee. Number 4. A mental breakdown. The final theory focuses not on the killer, but on Blair himself. Many believe he suffered a psychological collapse in the days leading up to his death. His abrupt shift in behavior, quitting meetings, hoarding money, and fleeing the country, aligns with symptoms of a mental health crisis, possibly paranoia or a delusional disorder. The travel patterns alone, back and forth border crossings, one-way flights, sudden cancellations, suggest confusion and panic. He wasn't thinking clearly, said Gerald Sapp, the repairman who encountered Blair at the gas station. He couldn't even find the right key in his own pocket. This theory suggests Blair's internal collapse left him exposed, and someone took advantage. By the time Blair Adams reached Knoxville, his mental state had fractured. He was running, but not from a known threat. His actions, abandoning tickets, switching cars, crossing borders, reflected disorientation, not direction. And when he left a Fairfield Inn that night, exhausted and visibly paranoid, he was carrying thousands in cash, jewelry, and gold, broadcasting his vulnerability. The most plausible explanation is that Blair encountered someone shortly after leaving the hotel. Whether it was the man reportedly seen with him at Cracker Barrel or someone else entirely, it's likely the interaction began casually. A conversation, an offer of company, possibly a proposition. It's possible the person he met was a sex worker, or someone looking for a quick exchange, financial or otherwise. But something shifted. Blair's behavior in the days prior had been increasingly erratic. If he became confrontational, manic, or frightened during the interaction, the other person may have felt threatened and responded violently. The location, an empty construction lot shielded from view, offered isolation but not safety. The defensive wounds, the torn hair, and the massive abdominal injury all point to a struggle. Blair fought back. He was overpowered. The fatal blow, whether a kick or a shove into a hard surface, wasn't necessarily meant to kill. It could have been a panicked act of self-defense. That would explain why his valuables were left behind. The person didn't want what Blair had. They just wanted to get away. One shoe placed under his head like a pillow suggests he remained alive for a time after the assault, disoriented and trying to stay conscious. A scream heard at 3:30 a.m. may have been his last. By the time daylight came, Blair was dead. Alone, with no signs of theft, no weapon, and no clear suspect. Theories involving professional killers, secret enemies, or stalkers collapse under scrutiny. But a man in crisis, overwhelmed and acting unpredictably, stumbling into the wrong situation, that's tragically believable. Blair wasn't targeted for who he was. He was vulnerable, and someone panicked in the face of that vulnerability. Whether they struck in fear or frustration, the outcome was the same. A deadly encounter no one intended, and no one stayed behind to explain. Do you want to bring bad things with you wherever you go? Our episodes are now available as a podcast. Look us up on your favorite podcast app and listen to the most truth-seeking true crime podcast out there.